Hello and welcome everybody to our 23rd International Open Clock Club. And it's a beautiful day here in York and hope it's nice wherever you are as well around the world. Great to see you all there. I'll just move my picture across a bit. No, I can't do that. Anyway, what we've been up to, as you can see, the York Festival of Ideas brochure is out, which is good fun. And our lovely Open Clock Club is, where is it? There it is, look, 19th of June. So as far as we're concerned, we're hoping that, we've borrowed something from the BBC's kind of repair shop wording and advertising and things. So bringing broken treasures back to life. Don't know whether you know about the BBC repair shop, but it's a really popular program here where objects, they try and bring up the story through repairing them. Anyway, so that's good fun. So we've increased our numbers for that day because we're hoping that we get quite a few sort of local people here as well. But as far as we're concerned, actually, I think it's going to be a bumper session. I think we're going to have an hour and a half that day, but it'll be the regular kind of thing. As far as we're concerned. And what have we got here? So usual housekeeping words. Open Clock Club's already typing away like crazy there in the sunshine. So please say hello. Remember, these sessions are not only about me banging on, but about you people exchanging ideas and commenting and saying hello. And of course, telling us what you want to see in future weeks as well. As always, do remember the sessions are recorded. I'll just check it's actually recording. Yeah, it is. And it'll go up on our YouTube channel. We had a bit of a glitch last week when only, for some reason, I don't know why, half of it gotten on to the YouTube. But anyway, that was corrected. And it was great, actually, to see all the kind of outcries of, where is it? Where is it? What do we miss? You probably didn't miss a great deal, but there you go. So last week we started, didn't we? We started reassembling our Enfield clock. We're going to press on with that with a bit of oiling. And there's been some nice correspondence on the Facebook group. So thank you very much for that. To Mark, if Mark's there this evening, he wrote to Mobius and said, what's the shelf life of the oil, I think it was. And of course, when you buy the stuff, I think we mentioned this last week, when you buy it, a bit of a leak going on there, it's got an expiry date on it. And they basically said that whatever that expiry date says, your shelf life, your working life of the oil is a year from when you open it, which is cool. I mean, that's actually quite nice to get something that isn't just sort of hearsay or something. And what I've done with my older oil is I now use it on my push bike and things. But when it comes to, I think we showed you this last week, when it comes to this synthetic grease, which is about £60, I think, and the oil's about 60 or 70. I don't use a synthetic oil, and I'm kind of getting more, convinced that that's unnecessary. But anyway, so if you use it for a year, then of course that's got a minor impact on your overall sort of outgoing sort of costs. And we've got our camera orientation a bit different today, as you can see, so it'll take me a while to get used to it. But hopefully it's better as a kind of clean feed thing. Yeah, it's going to take me ages to get used to it. Anyway, so let's get on with our reassembly. There was a nice post again on the Facebook group. I think somebody had bought an Enfield in the States. So thank you very much. And thank you for the orders that keep plodding in. We haven't forgotten about the hard copy in the States. And I'm very, very grateful to people who've actually bought one through eBay and paid that extra shipping. And which is great. We're still working on that, but it is monumentally difficult for a small publishing house, which is what we are, I suppose, to do that thing. It just means that it's kind of not really viable, which didn't stop us in the past. So I think we got our spring in, didn't we? Oh, that's right. I remember now. The spring was correct, and we put a new end on it. We didn't put on a new end; we cut a new end on it, and that's all lubricated. Now, of course, on my list of 20 things that are going to destroy your business and reputation, one of them, and again, as always, being totally hypocritical here, one of them is not to do this, obviously, and have the clock hanging around. This will go down like the proverbial, but I am not a fan at all of test stands for the reason that it's ever so tempting with a test stand. And I know you're all going to log off now and say, right, I'm never going to talk to Matthew again, because I know how everybody loves a test stand. If you ever get the chance, I don't know who's been to Belmont House, Faversham. I bet Wolf has been. Yeah, Wolf has been. Yeah, Ian's been. Yeah, of course. I bet they're always around there. They do a really good cream tea. Well, they will do when it's unlocked anyway. And anyway, if you are either wherever you are and you haven't been there, make a horological trip there, because the collection is absolutely incredible. And Jonathan, I don't know if Jonathan still does the tours there, does he? Yeah, Wolf is nodding. Yeah. So it kind of starts by saying about Lord Harris, who collected these clocks. And basically the question was, why do you collect these clocks? What do you like? And he said, I just like to see the wheels going round, which of course we all love to see the wheels going round. But the problem is what I've done this week with the clock in bits, it's all getting dusty. And so the work order from my perspective is to deal with the case, have the case completely finished. We talk about this in our book. Oh, and the camera lens is blocking the book. Well, there you go. Anyway, the book's up there somewhere. We'll have to sort that out for next week. That do all the case and all the kind of peripheral stuff, the ancillaries first. And then when you get your clock finished, you can go in the case and it goes off. Yeah, of course, there are those times where you get a problem and, frankly, most people, they can, obviously everybody can do what they want. Doesn't matter if you have the clock on a test stand, it's really lovely to see and watch the striking and all that kind of stuff. But from my perspective, running a nominally kind of more commercial workshop, I want to get the case done, get the movement done, put it in the case. And really, I think you learn by the hard way that if there's something when you're working on the clock and you think, is that going to cause a problem? It always does cause a problem, uprighting issues in particular, end shake, side shake, and that kind of thing. But nevertheless, all that rambling is about hypocrisy, because I haven't done the case in this case. So we're going to carry on with the movement, then vacuum the case out and clean the glass and that kind of thing. I don't have a test stand, so not quite what we're going to do. But anyway,
Jeremy said he was just going
to buy a test stand. Yeah, Jeremy's going to buy a test stand just specifically because I've said I don't like them. Yeah. So the thing about test stands is what I've just said. They're great. You have to make them if you've got a problem. But if you're doing this, I don't think there is actually a kind of big difference between commercial and non-commercial. But anyway, from my perspective, that's all I can talk about, is that why would you want to have the thing on test? And another thing, they cause so much problems in my old life, which I probably should stop banging on about eventually. But being an old person, of course, we always talk about the past. When I was teaching, and I was one of those students once, of course, I'd say, yeah, that clock's finished. It's ready to go back. And I'd look at it and go, no, it's not finished. The movement's there, the case is there. And inevitably you get a gotcha when you come to put the movement in the case. It can be 1,000 things, motion work that's touching the inside of the case. Sometimes where you've got a spring clock, Jeremy, and you tighten up the seat bob bolts, and there's just enough distortion of the frame for it to stop the clock running. So a clock's only finished when it's finished, and that test stand tempts you. The other thing about test stands, and I'm going to lose all my, subscribers here, is that they often, the ones I've seen often wobble, particularly those things with where it kind of grips it in one place, which causes a whole lot of problems. So yeah, if you've got a clock and it's driving you bonkers, you need to run it in a test stand. But personally, I would not have that as a kind of default position.
Said, everyone likes to see the wheels go around, but unlike Lord Harris, we don't have to wait and read on the clock.
That's true, yeah. We do like to see the wheels go around. I totally get that. But if you've got clock movements hanging around, in fact, that was, I can't remember who it was on Facebook that said about, the problem with oil, of course, is, and I kind of agree, in a clock where the temperatures are at least the kind of net temperatures aren't high and the pressures aren't particularly high, contamination of the oil is the 99%, probably 98% of the problem. And if your clock is kicking around, then it's going to get contaminated. So I'm going to...
Ian is showing off his test stand.
Oh, I see. At the moment, he's got it out there, has he?
Sam's got the same one.
Right. Okay. Is it a commercially made one? Can we see it? Where's I can't see him. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Terrible. Really, really terrible. I'm having to grip the edge of the bench here to keep myself from... Yeah. Oh, well, rather you than me. Anyway. Right. I was again talking about oh, you can't see what I'm doing, can you? Talking about that time of teaching. One of the favorite things, because everybody, and when you're a student in particular and you're beginning, again, I totally get that you want to sort of make sure the thing's right. But one of my favorite things was chucking away at the end of the academic year all those bits of MDF and things that people had made. Right, okay. Probably put it in the wrong, oh no, it's in the right side, correct side. So as last week, if you're new here, if you're new, by the way, first time this week, then welcome. This in very, very informal sort of program of activity was initially designed for beginners. So if you're new, then this is an incredibly good place to begin. And, I keep coming back to that, seeing people on Facebook or for other fora who get into all sorts of difficulties with three-train clocks. Three-train clocks are really plentiful. They're mid-20th century ones are typically quite inexpensive. And of course, you get a lot of value for your money. And you get a lot of value for your money when the thing's repaired, because it makes a lovely kind of sound every 15 minutes. But as a beginner, I wouldn't go there. This is, whether it's the Enfield or I saw on eBay, there was a Daval. Anybody worked on one of those Daval clocks? They look very kind of similar to this. And I forget, is it, oh, come on, brain, Tameside or Tameside? They did a kind of scaled back fusey clock, which is quite a good place to begin as well. So where are we? We've got our oiler.
Derek says that on his torsion clocks, he doesn't need a stand because the base and the pillars are the stand.
Yeah. And of course, the great thing about torsion pendulum clocks is they've typically got a shade. And, that's half my problem with them, is that if you've got a shade over the thing, it's not too bad. Right. So just double checking that let's have a look. Yeah, can't really see. So we fitted this pinion last week, and I can't remember that I oiled it in there, but I can't see any visible lubrication. So just going to pop a bit of oil in there. And it's always good to check again, because it's ever so easy, maybe not on a clock like this, but on one of those three-train clocks, to miss a bearing. So once you've oiled, what I recommend is that once you've run the clock on your test stand for a couple of weeks, that you go around and check all the bearings. You should be able to see visible lubrication when you wiggle the arbor in its whole. If you can't, then I would say there was probably too much, not enough lubrication there. So just a point again for the beginners. When you oil, I was watching a video the other day of somebody working on a clock. Come on, camera, focus. And the oil at the top of the bearing. So typically, you know, if this clock frame is like this when it's running, obviously gravity is pulling the oil down. Again, we mentioned this in our book. If you oil like this, obviously we're going to oil it when it's assembled, not now. If you oil at the bottom of the bearing, inevitably you leave a little oily mark on the frame, and that helps drag the oil out of the hole. This is a problem with over oiling as well, is that it's not that there's too much oil there. It's that if the oil begins to run down the plate, then it typically drags all the, well, not all the other oil, but a lot of the other oil with it as well. So over oiling is a problem. Remember that oil sinks are not for filling with oil. I don't really know what they are for. What are oil sinks for? We don't know. I'm sure you guys know what they are there for. Yeah, D-A-V-A-L-L, I think it is, or D-A-V-A-L. It's look a very similar looking animal to this, a kind of mid-20th century single train. I thought it was an Enfield, and then I looked and it wasn't. And as much as I would have loved to have bought it, the number of projects, I don't know why I'm using this. I'm using, I know we've talked about these before, but for some reason I'm using a number 4 Glasgow brush, which is kind of a watch brush, really. It's really soft, it's too soft. Goat hair, I think. Right, okay. Oh yeah, that's where I started, wasn't it? The clock that we saw on Facebook, was it this week? Yeah, somebody had bought. It had been reassembled, and the washer, this washer, was on the wrong side of this arbor. So the washer goes on between the face of the pinion, or the pinion head, which is here, and the arbor. The washer is sided as well. Washers often are, because I think they're stamped out. And from what I've seen, the curved side goes that way down, which kind of makes sense. And last week we smeared our arbor with a bit of pithwood, and we had one of the Dutch followers asking us what that was, that bit of wood. So hopefully they managed to find some in the Netherlands. And yeah, I don't know what it's called. Have we got any Dutch today? Dutch speakers in the audience? Remind us what pithwood is called in Dutch. Speaking of Dutch, don't forget our Icon event next week on Monday, this Monday. And that has got Fyodor van den Broek, who's one of the conservators at Buckingham Palace and other royal residences as well. So they're really cool to see how he's getting on. That's such a great job, and so pleased to see him working there. So this spring is really strong. It takes a lot of compressing. So I'm using my brass lined, my new favorite tool of all time, just to compress it a little bit like that. And if you've seen these clocks before, I can't remember even taking this apart now, it was so long ago, but the manufacturer puts a bit of wire through, then bends it into an S shape, which is a real pain to get it off. So I'm not going to put it back that way. I don't know whether that really matters or not. The problem with it is it just causes more damage when you take the thing out again. So I'm just going to put a taper pin in, which I'm going to have to go and find one. So excuse me a second. after the total chaos of the last couple of weeks of actually doing some contract work, we had a bit of a tidy up session yesterday, so it's a little bit easier finding things today. So you will all know by now, you've heard me banging on, I'm a big fan of these so-called universal taper pins. They're not universal at all, of course, because there's 3 sizes. If they're universal, I guess they would be of an infinite length, but anyway, infinite length taper pin. But if you don't want your pins to drop out, then just move the clock a bit out the way, just draw a file along the length, and it makes some really grip in the hole. So let's have a look. Where are we? Oops. Let's just pop it in there. Oh, come on, Brian. That's good. Just going to, probably don't need to cut any off this end. It's quite nice to finish them to a point, but I think I could leave it like that, but that would be a little bit obtuse. Super fine, fine, and medium. Let's just mark. As you know, I'm not a fan of Sharpie pens or whatever they're called, but other than on new material, then I don't mind. We had a good old conversation about that in the live stream on Thursday. That was good fun. Almost got our spring finished. Yeah, you see, when you draw file the pins, they really grip in the hole. Don't, let's cut that off. Cutters. This is where it flies away. If you're worried about losing things when you cut them like this, borrow that trick from the watchmakers where they remove watch hands through a plastic bag. So put the component in a bag and cut it inside a little plastic bag, and then the end won't fly away. So as we have been good, let's just tidy that end up a bit. Might not normally bother. People get a bit obsessed about having the ends of taper pins sort of rounded or polished and all that kind of stuff, which is fine, of course. Personally, I'm pretty cool with them being cut off like that. There we go. Oops, made a hole in my glove. Let's just find a not enough files, that's my problem. So again, should keep this free of mess, just find a fine file. It's got a bit of glove stuck in there. Oh, let's put that on silent. Ah, right, yeah. I think that's my daughter texting me that binging noise. Sorry, I don't quite know. Being an old person, don't quite know how to turn it off. Because we got 500 views, I think, on 500 subscribers on one of our YouTube channels. So thank you to everybody who subscribed to the channel. Yeah, she's going to, she's super excited at the moment, as you can imagine, because hopefully she's going to university, which is great. And she's looking forward to new videos with our new camera. So me too. So far, so good, but it's been an incredibly painful learning curve. But I guess that's what you expect. Right, good. So unless I've forgotten something, there's our friction work. I'm not bothered if before somebody says, why don't you put it back in the position it was before? I'm not particularly interested in that, but interesting that at some point it looks like it's been cleaned without taking the spring off, because you can see these marks here from some cleaning process by the look of it. So let's just pop a bit of oil on here where the pin touches on the spring, just to make it a bit smoother when we're setting our hands. Comme ça. Good. That's done. And I think I did check last week that we can get the barrel in. Just a bit of a brush and a bit of a puff. Can we get the barrel in? It's a bit embarrassing if I can't. Yeah. Phew. Right. So I'm just brushing these parts because I say they've been hanging around for longer than I would have liked. As I put them in, lower intermediate wheel, sneak that badger in there. Upper intermediate wheel, will be a minor miracle if all the parts are here. Oh yeah, I think I've got to remember again. Oh, brush hair stuck on that one. This was the one, wasn't it, that we repivoted here, the pinion end, many weeks ago now. So upper intermediate wheel, or third wheel, as some people call it. So I'm not being particularly kind of scrupulous here about dusting, getting the dust off. But if you wanted to do that, which is advisable and absolutely essential if you are repairing watches, then this, again, for the beginners, really cool product. It looks a bit like plasticine. Here's some old stuff that I just used for the kind of grim end of things, and I've noticed that they now brought out a premium product. I don't know what the difference is. It's a different color, but what's the difference? That's the question for you, because presumably anybody repairs watches. So it's always been packaged like this, but as you can see, it used to be that green color, and now it's like a pale green color. Got no idea what the difference is. Probably just charges my money for it. Who knows? I'm sure one of you people know. It's Bourgeon, but everybody, it's Rodico. So that's the name of it. And as you can see on the advert there for it, oh, there, it is, in fact, you can probably, I don't know if we can do the thing with the, what do they call that thing? I forgot the minute. QR code, thank you. Anyway, Rodico, if you haven't got any, it's really good just for lifting bits of dust off components. So on my escape wheel, which is here, just gonna go around and make sure that that's, so should have probably done that on all the components just to get the dust off, but there you go. Right. Yeah, put it the right way around. It'd be a bit embarrassing, wouldn't it, otherwise? So there we are. There's our train, and again, you can see why. Let's just admit somebody. You can see why you start on these clocks, because you can kind of put them together and be doing other things at the same time. Cover our oil stand. Yeah, again, I think we've probably discussed this before, but the beauty of this kind of oil stand is you can just flip the lid with one hand. So when you're not using it, you can flip the lid over. Whereas if you get the kind like this, which I actually prefer to look at, these kind of Bakelite ones, then you tend to take the lid off and it stays off, which obviously means that the oil gets dustier. They're quite cute, those, but I think the flip up lid is better for keeping oil out. No, that's, it's designed specifically for that job. It's not like, it looks like plasticine or something, but it's not. It's specifically designed by Bourgeon and the watch industry for doing that job, for getting fingerprints off watch hands and that kind of stuff. So no, I mean, if you're using it, sometimes I use it for putting the screws in the back of, wooden case clocks, and you do get a bit breaking off, but it's usually a big bit and you can see it. So no, as I understand it anyway, I'm not a watch person, as you know. but as I understand it, that's specifically what it's designed for. No.
It says he uses it on the lathe, the new one, the premium one.
Yeah.
It seems just the same as the old stuff apart from the colour.
Right. Yeah. I've got a feeling it's, well, for us anyway. Maybe it's, you know, I don't know anything about the watch industry, but it's nice to talk about things you don't know anything about. I think, you know, for the watch houses, one of my students was a former Breitling engineer, watchmaker, and of course are constantly upping the quality, and quite understandably, of the service procedure and specifying the oil and the amount of oil. And I think having a 4, if not even 5 sort of stage cleaning process. So it's understandable that they are constantly improving the quality of components. So I'll just get these pivots in here. Whoops. I was inevitably making a pig's ear of it. I know what you're going to say. Why do you use one of those pivot locators? Well, yeah. Put the wheels in the right way around as well. It would help, wouldn't it? This is not going to go down as masterclass in assembling a clock by the look of it. It's probably going to go down as
not enough pig spit.
Concentrate, not enough pig spit, yeah. Right, okay, actually. Actually having to concentrate for once in my life. So there's our train together. Well, let's put some let's put some nuts on it before the mobiles fall out. They're a bit dusty, so I just want to put that there and hope it doesn't. Pointy stick, pointy stick.
He says there seems to be a drive for longer service intervals in the watch world at the moment. Boris launched a caliber with a 10-year servicing recently.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with a dual bearing, of course, which most watches have, that makes a lot of sense. And I think particularly since the kind of more recent refashion of sports watches, not that I know anything about watches, he says again, is that of course that they're better sealed. And as we said earlier on today, it's the dust and the grime, not the actual lubrication itself that fails. So totally get that. I'm just going to look for my special spanner.
It says, when are you going to tell us why you got that pivot locators?
That was a informal break there. I'm looking for the spanner. Why I don't like pivot locators. I just don't get the point of them. That's all. I've got nothing against pivot locators, but a pair of brass tweezers is a great pivot locator. Much more sort of flexibility, I think, personally. As you saw in the completely calf-handed way in which I reassembled this clock. So there we are. Special brass spanner, very, very rare animal, much sought after. So, okay, got our frame together. We haven't done any lubrication yet, but we're going to always check. Remember, we repivoted here, and at some point, there's been some bushing. This isn't one of mine. Who knows? I can't even remember that. It was so long ago. So, usual thing to prevent heartache in future, we just check that the the train turns freely. And then we're going to check each mobile in turn, both dial up and dial down. So they must fall. Oh, I can get it in the camera. Come on, brain. They must fall freely. If you can hear that. If they don't fall freely, barrel as well. Must be totally rattly. If it's not, if there's any stickiness, then investigate it now because it'll hurt you later. And if you've done bushing or in particular, then sorry, my brain can't seem to get the hang of this camera where it is. If you've done, I know what I'll do, bushing in particular, then absolutely critical that you go through this process. And if you just feel that the arbor is binding a tiny bit and you think, it'll be fine, it'll run in, it typically it won't. It'll, there we go. Help me. It'll bind up. It'll bind up and you'll get a return. So again, just check. You can hear the rattling of all the handshake like that. So we're okay. Now it's not got any oil on it, so it won't come to a particularly smooth stop. But of course, the one that I'm worried is our third wheel there that we repivoted. Okay, so all good. What's next and how we're doing for time?
38.
All right, okay, cool. Well, I tell you what, we haven't had a comfort break in weeks and weeks. It's just been full on. So just move the thing so I can actually see the time. 38. So let's just have a minute and a bit comfort break then, because I could do with a drink and see you back at 40, okay? Right, okay. Okay.
Ian said, oh no, I'm going to have to check out my pivot locator, but it's in a garage.
That's sorry. Well, welcome back. Short but sweet break there. So next we're going to put our winding work on and we're going to oil that as we go along. Just check that actually we can, yeah, I think if you put the minute wheel on, maybe you can't get that over. I don't know, can't remember. Right, so here's our ratchet wheel. And again, if you, a note for beginners, this is sided. So if we're winding clockwise, when we look from the front of the movement, it needs to go on in this direction. Okay, just give it a bit of a brush. Oh. And before we do that, before we put it on, just going to put some D5 on this bearing here. Somebody go. It's a little long. Quite a thirsty bearing down here. Again, oiling from the top. So gravity is going to draw, I mean, capillary action will draw the oil in. I'm going to put a couple of bits on there, and then a little wiggle, and we should just check. Yeah, quite a large bearing. So, and again, bit of D3 on the face of the frame here. I'll put 2 or 3 drops on, like that. Voice activated. And is that the right way around? Yeah. Just pop that in there. There we go. Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. We were talking, weren't we, last week? Was it about this click which has been mangled up? But it's what it is. It does the job, and taking it off and straightening it would break the little lugs. So we've got oil underneath that ratchet wheel, and then we're just going to put a little bit on. Ooh, too much. A little bit on top too. You can see can see where to oil. I don't know whether it's coming across on your picture there, because you can see the witness mark of where it's rubbed on the cover. So a little bit there. Pop that badger on like that, and then screw. So again, easy to make a mistake with this screw. This, particularly for watches, really important that when you take the screws out, you make a note of how long they are. It's ever so easy to pick up one of the screws for the back cock or something here and put that in, and it's absolutely fine until you try and run the clock and then find that the screw has worked its way into the barrel cap and it doesn't run. Or sometimes you see on fusee clocks that it's focus. Sometimes you see on fusee clocks where it's been running things like the line running on the inside of the front plate, going round and round. Screwdriver. So this is not steady pinned, this ratchet cover. So it's always nice to use a watch type screwdriver to get the screws in, because it's quite quick. And then what we're going to do is just centralize the cover about the square. So udge it across a little bit like that. And then we can tighten it up. There we go. So that's all good. Before I forget, I'm going to oil the where the click touches the wheel, where the spring touches the click, and then a bit of D3 where the rivet or the post or the bearing here for the click is, and that'll just get drawn inside. Good. Right, we can just test. I'm just going to test that the spring is hooked on. Oh, I think I tied it up. It's always a problem, isn't it? Right, okay. That's another use for these my new best friend, the brass line pliers. Of course, you would not normally put a pair of pliers on there, but quite cool for that. Right, so very quickly, we already remember oiled the inside of this one because it's quite difficult to get to. You can get your oiler in there if you forgot to do it. So I'm gonna do 5 here, D5. So hold the oiler on where the two components meet for a second or two, and you can see capillary action drawing the lubrication in. Come on, brain. Right, bit of D3 here.
Matthew, are you using different oilers for D3 and D5?
No, using the same one, but I'm just cleaning on the pithwood between the pithwoods here. You maybe can't see, sorry, it's just out of shot. So I'm cleaning I'm using one oiler, but I'm cleaning off between each two. And again, I suppose, does it matter? Does it not matter? Yeah, you don't really want to mix them up, but no, I'm not. I'm just using the same oiler and cleaning it on pithwood each time. Right, so that's done our front plate. And there's a great example of that front bearing wobbling about when you go like this. So that definitely needs bushing, that front bearing. Otherwise the clock's going to explode. Right, I won't do the back because it's going to get in the way. I'll do the back later. So let's put the motion work on. So back to our piece of pithwood, which we just got a little bit of oil on there. You can see that. And we're just going to smear the minute wheel stud and smear the center arbor. Let's just find our minute wheel, and I'm just brushing the dust off these away from the clock so it doesn't get too yucky. Pop that on there. And then have a look, keeping everything crossed so we can find the parts. Our wheel. Actually, this hour wheel, I remember when you disassemble these clocks, it's a bit like a French clock because there's no hour wheel bridge, not hour wheel bridge. There's nothing, there's no minute cock holding the hour wheel on. It's gotten bent, look. See that? So pulling it against the inside of the dial because the hand was presumably very tight. Don't think. Yeah, because there's a washer here, isn't there? That's right. There's a washer that holds this on. But on a French clock, what you can do if you've got that situation on a pendule is to leave the hour wheel and the hour hand on, take the movement out, because it's often totally free, and then get the two components and take it out that way. No such opportunity here. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a straighten here. Oh, it's like the most useful tool ever. How are we doing for time? Got 10 minutes. Good. Oh gosh, I might actually get the movement together. Not massively worried about this. What we did on the live stream was to use our split stake made out of boxwood. Made 2 appearances this week, and we could do that. And then we can just tap this down here just to make it a little bit flatter, put it in the vise. Now we would move over to vice cam, but unfortunately we've had so much learning curve with cameras this week. I think we've probably had enough. So that question. Yeah.
Are you assembling the clock if it needs brushing from Derek?
Oh, it was a joke. Sorry. It was my idea of humour. Sorry, Yorkshire humour. There is no such thing, of course, as Yorkshire humour. No, it was because of this thing, Derek, where I see loads and loads and loads and loads of unnecessary bushing. People go like that and they say that wheel needs bushing, the arbor needs bushing. And of course, the point is that from my perspective, only do bushing if you do depthing first. So we've been through this and checked the depthing, you know, by pushing the wheels together, pushing them apart, and finding an optimal distance. So sorry, that was a joke. I shouldn't try and make any jokes. It does wobble, but it doesn't need bushing. So it's, let's just have a look at it. So it's at the non-pinion end here where the wear is, And if you look as the clock runs, goes that way, doesn't it? So it's been the lower intermediate wheel is pushing the center wheel in this direction. So it's pushing it across here. So the tangent to the wheel is about there. So that's the line of force is going to be something like this. So it's pushing it in this direction. So you get 2 things there. One, of course, the hand moves across a little bit, which eventually is going to cause a problem. Totally agree. And the other thing is the depthing with the minute wheel here is going to get shallower and shallower. Now, if that were a train wheel and there was a lot of force there, a relatively large amount of force, it might cause a problem. But of course, the thing is, this isn't, all this is doing is moving the hour wheel around. So, you know, you could try it for depthing.
Can you say something about a piece of wood? What is the wood thing?
Oh, the wood thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Strongly recommend, by the way, that if you don't already, I know it's it's like an hour and a half or something, so maybe a lot of your life out of the way. But the live stream, we do get through quite a lot. And so the bit of wood, you are familiar, I think, with these things, brass split stakes, incredibly useful tool. I used to make them, but now you can buy them on the internet for $10 or something. Really useful. And the good thing about these is they're a consumable. So when you don't have a hole that's the right size, you drill it out and file bits away. And so I made a wood version of the same thing, which is, let's move my clock, which is same thing, boxwood. And you drill it, file it, part of it broke off. I can't remember if we drilled a bit out. No, we didn't. On the live stream, it fitted okay, but incredibly useful. Normally, you see you trap it in the vise like this, so you hold it in the vise, but it's, yeah, boxwood. You could use any old hardwood, I suppose, for it. There was just some boxwood turning around, so I used that. That's what it is. Right, let's get our little clip on here. The good thing about these single train clocks, of course, I can't remember who it was. Was it Ian? Was it Ian who was talking about putting on the four-lobed lifting cam onto the center? How do you get it on in the right orientation this week? So, of course, you don't have any problem here because there's no striking work, so it doesn't matter where it goes, where that brass pinion goes. Pop that chap on. So they changed the design of these little circlet things are not really great idea, but they tend to get opened up. As you can see, this one's got a little bit distorted, but it's on there. I think I'm just gonna, no, it's not on there. That's the problem. So this is one of those things we talk a lot about improving things, and I'm not a major fan of trying to improve things, but this is certainly not a brilliant design. You can actually make a better one out of a bit of brass wire, sort of a little lyra shaped bit of brass wire. So that's probably going to drop off there. But anyway, okay, that's our front plate done, and we've got 5 minutes. So I'm actually going to put the escapement in and oil that before I put the oil on the back plate, just so it doesn't kind of get contaminated. But before we put the pallets in at the back, of course, what we need to do is to fit the bearing piece here, which I forgot about. So there you go. Although it's resting on the nuts, that's kind of why I didn't want to. Right. Okay. I've also forgotten that the washer goes on there, so that'll have to come off again. Let's just look for the bearing piece. There it is. And the screw. I think the back cock screws and the, let's have a look what we've got here. Oh no, maybe they're different. So here's our pallets and pallet arbor. So we're going to need a screw to fix these on here, which I think that goes at that end, doesn't it? If I remember rightly. Is that right? Yeah, wheel going clockwise. So yeah, that is at the back. So entry pallet, exit pallet. Yeah, so that goes on there. This is why you need notes, because it's so easy to forget how this stuff goes together. In the book, which is obscured, we advise that if you're doing this for the first time, that you get a piece of graph paper and you make a note of the orientation between these two components, because when we eventually get it together, which is going to be next week now, finished, there's a particular relationship with this. This has got a beat setting arrangement here, But the problem is, if you've got the pallets so far off where the beat setting is, then you can't actually use this because it's going to end up touching on the frame. So that's just pop that together. I won't tighten it fully yet, but that's good. We've got the screw there. So I think they can't quite see that there somewhere. I think these screws are the same. So let's just pop the front bearing piece on. The beauty of setting up the escapement on these clocks, of course, is that, well, it's both a help and a hindrance, is that you've got so much kind of adjustability. You've got that adjustability of the pallets in relation to the crutch, which you don't normally have on like a tall case clock. And then on the back cock, you've got elongated slots, which enable you to adjust drop. But you've also got this arrangement here with the front bearing piece. And of course, you've got no idea really what the heck happened when the clock was made in relation to fitting this bearing piece. So what I would advise, unless you feel strongly otherwise, is that when you first fit it, if you can see that you position it in the center of this cutout or this hole that's punched in the frame. Now, the beauty of that is when you've got the back cock on and you've got the depth thing, the drop of the escapement set up, you can look at the frame like this and check that the pallet arbor is broadly horizontal. Obviously, if the pallet arbor is at a crazy angle, then you need to move one up and one down. So let's just tighten that. Like that. And then we can think about getting our pallets in, which are here. There's our back cock.
James says, what if the pallets are in the wrong place to start off with?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the, I hope you're absolutely right, Jane. You can't trust, for want of a better word, what's there. All you can do is observe, make notes, but you've constantly got to be aware of things that have changed, alterations that have been made. I think again on Facebook, was it Ian had a clock with a problem with the rack hook, and there are kind of 3 or 4 maybe different things that could have been changed, bent, moved, worn. So yeah, you've got to be alert, I suppose is the word, to these things being messed about with. But we can figure it out here. Well, you can see straight away, in fact, I don't know if you can see on the camera, so we'll get some focus in there, that if we want because the, probably not going to focus in there, let's do it like this. Because the escape wheel is offset, you know, it's not in line like it is on a long case clock, for instance, then obviously the pallets have got to be at an angle. And they can be wherever they want. As you people who work on American clocks, the pallets are underneath. First time I saw, and not that I've had that much experience of them, some 18th century or 17th century spring clocks with pull quarter repeating, where the movement is so compact that they put the escape wheel for the verge at some bonkers angle. You can put it where you want as long as it works. And we see an example of that here. So what I've done, I haven't tightened that screw fully. So I've just moved the pallets round. And then when I get it roughly in beat, I will be looking at the relationship between, can't see it now, but the little kind of beat setting piece at the bottom and this banking. These are effectively banking pins here. So these limit the movement of the crutch. So let's pop that on, Barry back cock. And just going to put 1 screw in at the moment. Probably just going to only find 1, and we're running out of time anyway. So just put 1 in. We only need 1 in there just to do our adjustment. He says dropping it. So let's just get that in and we can call it a day. So can't see it. Next week we'll be able to set up the escapement, and when we get it in the case, we can listen to beat setting, because I know for a lot of people, and I totally get it for beginners in particular, when you're first put your clock together, really listening for beat setting is tricky. And it's one of those annoying things because when people have done it for a long time, they just bend a thing and the clock goes in beats. So it'd be quite cool to go through that as well, because I know it irritates people. So same kind of rule of thumb as with that front bearing piece. I'm just putting the lug of the back cock in the middle-ish of that where the washer is. And then when we've got the thing up and running and in beat, if it needs all moving down or all moving up, as you can see here, there are elongated slots. So we're going to wrap up in a sec, give that a little tweak and we should.
Ian says you can get it onto the test stand next week.
Yes, definitely. She'll be on the test stand, all right. I will actually probably make something so we can all see, for educational purposes only, Ian, we can all see it running. This would be quite nice, wouldn't it? And to listen to it being in beat. So kind of a nice place to stop, because when you put the escapement together on this clock, because it's not steady pinned, the escapement can be in one of three phases, completely running free, completely locked, or like this working. So we'll go through that next week. For those of you who want to get into more detail of all this stuff, everything I've talked about this week is in our book, which is available on eBay. If you're worldwide, free postage in the UK. It's on Kindle and on Amazon in Europe. And thank you very much. Thanks for all the great comments. Thank you, as always, to Team Open Clock Club, who's been typing away like crazy. So we really look forward to looking at the live chat later. And I think we're going to get this wrapped up next week. Then we'll be back to our eccentric wheeled 30-hour long case clock thing. And then also, if I've got my finger out, we'll have finished the file video and we'll be able to discuss between us whether when you're buying files, you go for a bank breaker or bargain basement. So anyway, just give you a minute to sign out, everybody. Great to see you all, and same place next week. Don't forget, sign up for the icon thing. It's we'll put a link in the description of this video. And if we don't see you on Thursday for the live stream, we'll see you next Saturday, and have a great week. And if you're in England, it's a holiday weekend. So yay, bank holiday weekend, enjoy. Okay, bye for now.